Hi, I'm Ira Kalish, Chief Economist of Deloitte, and this is your weekly economic update. Last week, the government of China reported that in 2025, China had a record trade surplus of 1.2 trillion US dollars. That means China exported a lot more than it imported, and it made up the difference by accumulating foreign currency, which it could use to invest in or loan to foreigners, mainly in the US or Europe. Now, on the surface, a trade surplus sounds like a good thing, just like a deficit sounds like a bad thing. But that's not necessarily the case. The fact that China has perpetually run surpluses over many years means that China has perpetually produced more than it consumes, whereas deficit countries like the United States have perpetually consumed more than they produce. Rather, China's surplus reflects the fact that China is a high-saving country. In fact, consumer spending in China is a relatively low share of GDP compared to most other major countries. And China has a high savings rate in part because of government policy. The government doesn't provide a very strong social safety net, and that encourages households to save more. Moreover, the Chinese government has provided substantial incentives for investment in and production of manufactured goods which can be exported. And so China produces a lot of goods, more than can be consumed domestically, and winds up exporting a very large amount. And even though last year Chinese exports to the US declined 20%, largely because of tariffs, exports to other countries increased quite strongly, in part because of very competitive pricing in order to move those exports. And that competitive pricing meant that there was disinflationary pressure in China. It also meant that Chinese manufacturing companies saw a sharp decline in their profit margins. And of course, this is not necessarily a favorable or sustainable thing going forward. Plus, China's surplus has raised issues in other countries. Many other countries are concerned that the flood of imports from China is hurting their workers and their manufacturing industries. In any event, that's this week's update. I hope you have a good week.